Drop where you from, your name in the chat. If this chat shit is working, last time it wasn't. Fucking difficulties with this one live stream, man. Anyway, so what's good, Len? What's going on, man?
What's going on, man?
Chilling, brother. Blessed another day. Blessed another day, man.
Yeah.
We coming here today to talk to y'all about how important communication is. And man, communication in any relationship, whether it's business, personal, is so crucial. And communicating when I wasn't sober, man, it was so like upside down. I didn't even know what proper communication was. I didn't know how it was all about me getting my point across. I didn't know how important the power of listening is. And man, listening is the most important tool when it comes to communicating, because you got to be able to listen to what the other person is saying so that you could have empathy, so you could have understanding, so you could really be able to communicate back to them. And you want to be able to acknowledge and validate the person that you're in the communication process with. And I didn't know about any of that shit, man. It was all about just getting my point across. It was a one-way communication path. It was so backwards and so upside down. And I didn't know the people to communicate with in order to help me grow, because I was hanging out with the wrong people. And I was surrounding myself with people who weren't going to uplift me and take me to that next level. And, man, it's not a way to live. It's backwards to think that communication could be a one-way street, because just like any other relationship, it's got to be a two-way street in order for it to work. And when it comes to communicating, it's crucial to have that two-way street, man.
Yeah, man. Yeah, echo? I had bad echo. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you.
Okay. Well, definitely one thing you said about we don't know who to communicate to when we're in the middle of addiction. And we're out there. Like, that's why it's so important. I feel like, if you don't know that there's a community out there that's willing to help you, or you don't know people that's out there willing to help you, we want to, we try to start communicating about our disease to like the people who are closest to us. I know I had this problem where before I really connected with or tuned into, people in the sober community, I would speak to my ex-wife, my mother, my sister. There was definitely a misunderstanding there because, they don't understand the disease. You know what I mean? And I'm not explaining to them the right way. So whatever I'm saying to them, they have no idea what I'm talking about because they're not, they were an alcoholic. So that's why it's so important to know who to talk to. That's what I always say, you always have to be connected with the sober community when you're, especially in early sobriety, because like you said, we're gonna speak to who we know, right? If we're not linked into that community, we start speaking to family, friends. Well, again, they may not understand where we're coming from or what help we need or what we need to hear to get better. So that's definitely a misunderstanding. That's why the communication, we have to make sure we're communicating with the right people.
Man, and just the style of communication too was way off when I was out there in active use and wilding out, and just wanting to it to be about me, and wanting to, rather than it being about the other person that's involved in that communication, because it's so crucial to realize how important the other person is. You got to acknowledge and validate their feelings, understand what it is they're going through, right? Because when we're in active use, we're not caring about the other person. We're the only time we're caring about the other person is to put the blame on the other person. Because I remember I was putting the blame on everybody but myself. I wasn't able to look in the mirror and take stock of who I was. I wasn't communicating with myself properly, man. You know what I mean? And my communication with my higher power that I call God was completely in shambles because I didn't know how to communicate. I didn't know how to build that relationship. I didn't know how to open up those airwaves because I was blocking his communication to me because I was getting high. So the communication there was broken. And man, is that not a way to live life? That just completely turns you spiritually bankrupt when you break that communication barrier with that higher source. And now learning today how to really communicate in all of my relationships, right? In my business relationships, my personal relationships, my relationship with my father, my higher power, which I call God. I mean, that's the relationship that always stays intact. And man, that communication goes throughout the day. But it's helped me elevate my communication game on every level when I learned the proper way to communicate and being able to really listen, as I was saying earlier, because listening is the most powerful tool when it comes to communicating and really learning how to kind of bounce off of each other when you're communicating properly. When there's proper communication, there's no need for toxic relationship. There's no need for things to go haywire because you're communicating properly. You're communicating in a way where it's constructive and it creates anabolic energy rather than catabolic energy.
Well, yeah, that's the key to good relationships is the communication. Without the good communication, there's no good relationship. And then what we tend to do, if we don't learn how to communicate or are not on the same page with whatever person we're having a relationship with, we start to isolate. Right? So now we don't, since we're not having good communication, we stay to ourselves. And that immobilizes any relationship we have, So whether it's with our spouse, family, friends, if we don't learn how to communicate, if we're not communicating well, that's not moving the relationship forward. And then if we isolate, that just now we cannot communicate with anybody. And especially in recovery, when you isolate, you're headed down a dangerous dark road, brother. So
it's a dangerous slope. Yep.
Yes. When that communication is key and being open, especially like you said, business, recovery, getting out to communicating and having good communication is key, for success in anything, you know what I mean? And learning how to communicate. And like you said, you become a better communicator the more you listen, So
yeah.
a good job listening and understanding how the other person feels, like you said, not being selfish and worrying about our feelings. You have to take into consideration how one feels that you're in a relationship with or that you're communicating with. And if not, it's just gonna fall apart, and the whole relationship's gonna fall apart. And I know, and it's tough. Like when we're in active addiction, it's tough. We're going around ruining relationships. You know what I mean? Because again, we're being selfish. We're not caring how the other person feels. We don't see their side of it. And even when we come out of it and we get into recovery, we still have to understand that's when, the communication is even more key because you have to understand how we made that person feel when we were in active addiction. So it's not like when we're in recovery now the communication is better. We still have to give that person grace and understand that we hurt them. And the communication has to be, we have to have empathy for the way they feel too, or the way we made them feel. You know what I mean? So even reestablishing the communication, I remember when I came home from my last stint at rehab, I remember my therapist before I left, he said, "Hey, you may have to take it on the chin with a couple of people, man. They're not going to be happy with you." You know what I mean? You may have to have a couple of relationships before you came here. You know what I mean?
That sober communication taught me how to really be responsible for my actions. Because when you learn to communicate at that level and realize that you're gonna be pulling up a lot of dirt that you did, a lot of things that you did to hurt people, and you got to be able to communicate that, and then take responsibility for your actions, because you're not responsible for the way they respond. You're responsible for what you did, and you gotta own up to that. And man, that really was an eye opener for me, and helped me be able to communicate throughout my life in other aspects, right? Because it helped me be a better father, it helped me be a better son, it helped me be a better businessman. When I learned to communicate properly, it took my life to the next level on every aspect. And I think that that's what proper communication does. And there's so many people out there who struggle with knowing how to communicate. And then they end up in toxic relationships. Their business goes upside down. And there's emptiness there. Because when you're not communicating properly with those around you, your life is unmanageable, man. I don't give a fuck who you are. It's a fact. You got to be able to communicate. And communication is going to take you so far in life, in everything you do, in every step of every level of your life. Communication is going to be one of the most important pillars that you have in having a successful life, business, whatever it is you're looking to do, and be successful at. That communication has to be a pillar that's vital in your pillars of success.
No, I mean, exactly. It's like you said, business and personal and recovery. You have to, again, communicating how you feel, what you want done to, how you want others to treat you. In business, speaking up for yourself.
Oh yeah.
Letting them know, getting your ideas out there. Because again, if we're not speaking up for ourselves, we tend to keep those things in, and then all that breeds is resent later down the line. Like, damn, why didn't I do this? And you miss out on life, when we don't communicate, we don't speak up.
That's so important too. Not business, but also in your early recovery or right before you hit recovery. Throughout life, it's important, but those stages especially, because if you're not speaking up for yourself, if you're not being honest with yourself and speaking how you feel properly, you're going to bury yourself. You're going to bury yourself because you're going to fall so far behind, because that's when you start holding things in. That's when you spoke about isolation starts creating at that point. And that's when you go back and you end up using, and, whether it's drugs, alcohol, whatever it is. I mean, people have so many vices that they struggle with, right? I mean, overeating's one, sex, gambling, all of it. But man, it could really be a trigger if you're not communicating properly. And the communication starts within yourself, because you got to be honest with yourself. You have to. You got to learn how to communicate with yourself, because you got to learn to treat yourself of a person who's worthy of love and respect. And that goes with the way you communicate with yourself.
Right. Even with so you brought something up like in early recovery, communicating to people around you or that you used to be with. Like I remember, just give an example. I had decided to, going back and forth, relapsing in and out of recovery. Friends would come up to me who I want to hang out, party with, and I never used to communicate with them like, hey, I'm trying to stop drinking. Like, I'm not drinking anymore.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I let them come, persuade me to go drink, and I just didn't express myself. I wasn't able to communicate with them that, hey, I don't drink anymore. So whenever they came to me, hey, we're going to hang out, we're going to drink, we're going to the bar, we're going to the city, blah, blah, blah. I didn't communicate it. So again, that was a trigger, inviting me out. Yeah, invite me out. Boom. Before you know it, I'm out drinking. Instead of me, whatever reason it was, I didn't want to lose a friend, or I didn't want to speak up and just let them know, hey, I don't drink. Or if I'm out, putting a beer in my face or a drink in my face.
Yeah.
I just froze up and then communicate like, you know what? I don't drink anymore. I'm not drinking tonight. I didn't know how to communicate, or I didn't put myself in a position to communicate the way I should have, during those times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's It is, and you know what? You're communicating with those people around you so that they respect you, right? Because if you're allowing them to control what you're going to do, they're not going to respect you, and that starts with the way that you communicate with people and how honest you are, how honest you are with yourself, and then how honest are you with those people around you.
Right.
Because when there's dishonesty around, that's broken communication. Yep. And guess what? When there's broken communication, I don't care what relationship it is. Once the communication is broken, that relationship is broken. And it ain't easy to come back from a broken communication relationship. It's not. Because once it's broken like that, man, it becomes toxic energy and it creates just a whole whirlwind of issues for a relationship.
Very true. Very true. You're right. Yes, tough. Yeah, and a lot of relationships are destroyed or come to an end because the communication just wasn't good. You know what I mean? And you look back and like, wow, if I know how to communicate, if we just we had the freedom to tell each other how we felt, you know, without judgment, or even had the courage to communicate, things would be better. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And speaking of that courage, right? Like those tough conversations, that's crucial communication that has to happen in every relationship. Right. You got to be able to have those tough conversations. It doesn't matter how tough it is, because if it's going to benefit the relationship, you got to go out there and have it. You got to go out of your comfort zone and have that conversation, because what's on the other side is going to create balance in that relationship, and it's going to create honesty and trust in that relationship, and that's vital for any relationship that you're having out there. And that's why communication, man, is such an important pillar to have in any relationship you're building.
Right, and then when we have problems, issues, or difficulties, good communication will help resolve it. You know what I mean? If you're not communicating when difficulties come up, and they will, they always will, they're gonna rear their head, ugly head. Having that communication, that good communication, that help you resolve it, solve those problems. So
absolutely,
so many reasons. We went over many, but so many reasons why.
Yeah, communication is very, very important, man. And I'm glad that for everybody who came through this week to check us out and who listened in, we're grateful for having y'all here, and we're grateful for whoever we could give this message to, and whoever it helps out there, man. So we're gonna be back next week on Thursday, same time, same bad channel, all that good stuff, man. Leonard, man, as usual, man, thanks for coming through, and I appreciate doing this with you, brother.
Joe, my brother, I appreciate it. We'll do it next week, man.
Yes, sir. Everyone have a productive, profitable rest of the day, and stay blessed. Enjoy the weekend, yeah?
Enjoy the weekend.
Don't drink and drug. It's not worth it.
Don't do it. Stay sober. Stay sober.